Hey guys, Dave TCU coming you with another video. This is going to be my Rob Lucci deck list that I took to the offline regionals in Kissimmee. I went 8-2 again. Fortunately placed 34th with the 8-2 record, with my two losses also being 8-2. So the deck ran very well. Definitely not disappointed with the results, just still being 8-2 from the other regionals and Treasure Cup as well. So I just want to just show you the deck list. Same thing like I always do. I'll start top to bottom, go into what I would change, and then towards the end of the video, talk about my matchups and maybe even talk about what I will probably run for OPO4. So we'll go ahead and just get started. Rob Lucci, very good leader. Basically able to attack twice when something is KOs. You have to just trash two cards, and then you can restand it to attack. Very good against the red meta for Law, Zoro, and especially Whitebeard. But it's good in general, so that's the reason I went more for Rob Lucci, just because of the Whitebeard matchups. Of course, same thing like I've always do. I always try to compare or change the deck to the meta, which is more Whitebeard and Zoro. And this is why I went ahead and decided to put 3 Ishos. So Isho, as you know, when an opponent has more than six or more cards in hand, you're able on play to trash 2 of their cards, but on random. Such a good card, especially against Whitebeard, since 9 times out of 10 they're gonna have more than 6 cards because they're not able to really get rid of their hand as much. So Isho should always hit, even if you miss the curve. And if you hit curve correctly, if you go second, you're most likely able to play 2 Ishos without being punished. And this is why I bumped it up to 3. Maybe because you definitely want to see 1 against the Whitebeard. But even 2 is perfectly fine. And of course, against the other decks, it still runs very well. It's still playable. 1 is still playable for Zoro. 2 of them are very playable against the blue matchup. If you go second against the mirror match, it's very useful because of its second effect. When you put a Dawn under them, you -3 across the board. So when you play against the mirror match, whoever has the Isho out, it's like having the 4-drop Kuzan, where you're able to actually control the other black player. So even if you don't get the -2 hand against the black player, you want to just have him out. So very strong card. I think 3 is a must. I honestly think 3 is gonna be the standard for Isho for OPO3 and OPO4. After that, we'll go ahead and play 4 Sakazukis. Nothing much change here other than, very strong card, very good to control the board. Trash 1 to kill a 5-drop or less. When Isho is out, you can kill an 8-drop or less. So I think 4 is a must. Some people play him at 3 because he could get cloggy, but you really want to see him. If I don't see him, I feel like I'm not having a good day with the black deck. Of course, that's standard with the standard 4 Kuzans. Here again, I'm going to talk about some things I would change. I'm thinking of dropping the 4-drop Kuzan down to 3. He is a must. He's able to, I've talked about this constantly with my smoker deck and so on and so forth. But basically, black has no way to really see other cards. You have brand new now. You have Spandam when you run Lucy, because it is locked to a type of leader. You have Khalifa and you have Kuzans. So you don't have too much cards, but more than OPO2 to see more cards, because black usually only plays with what you see. So by dropping the Kuzan to 3, you're removing a card that's gonna let you see more cards. But what happens is 9 times out of 10 in this meta, the 4-drop Kuzan is very useful against the yellow and the black mirror, and it's good against Whitebeard, but it is a slow card. And running 4, 9 times out of 10, you're not playing all 4 because they're not in counter, and all he's doing is replacing a card other than removing a card. Like, you have to play him early, but then even if you play him early, sometimes it feels bad because you rather play a Borsalino or something else versus the 4-drop Kuzan, since he's only a 5k, not a 6k. So I don't know. I wanted to try him out on at 3, but I think less than 3 is definitely a no. I always play them at 4, but I think 3 wouldn't be a bad number to try him in the OPO3 meta, in my opinion. But it could be bad. I was just thinking sometimes to dropping him when I see him way too much in my hand, it becomes too cloggy. Of course, four Borsalinos MVP. Like you can't not play this character. Just remember that he's a unkillable blocker from effects on your opponent's turn, not when you attack. So that's the only thing you have to just watch out for the Fire Fist. Since he's a 5K on your turn, you have to just he's a target for Fire Fist trigger, and he's a target for pistol. Which there's not too much pistols anymore, but it's something you have to still keep aware of. But must have 4, nothing much to say here. From there, we have 4 Kaku. So if you guys remember my Smoker deck list, or if you haven't seen it, I talked about how Kaku was so important against the Zoro matchup. And this is another reason why I showed Lucci over Smoker. Just because I was having trouble going first versus the Zoro. And I figured there was going to be a lot of Zoros, even though I played a lot of Whitebeards. But Kaku still came about. With the Kuzan and the Izo, you're able to pop 6 or 7 costs without having anything else to drop or minus, making Kaku even more valuable. And then when you play against Zoro, you don't really need those guys to minus. You're able to just pop mainly everything except for the Marcos, and then still stay on tempo. And this is why Kaku is such a huge tempo play when you're able to have the CPs in the trash. Play him when you go first on your 3rd turn, having a 6K body that cannot be fire fisted. Such a strong card. So definitely a 4 of, definitely a reason why the Lucci build is, that's not pure Navy. As you can see, this is more of a hybrid build. I feel like it's one of the best builds to do when you have to tech for Zoro and Whitebeard. Of course, it hits laws and the blue matchup and stuff, and as well as the green matchups, but it's mainly for Zoro. This also goes into Blue No. Blue No, again, like I talked about before, such a strong card in the Zoro matchup. You can play him on your 3rd turn when if you don't have the Kaku or the Kaku is not active for some reason. Then you can play Blue No. Blue No will slow down the match. You can swing with him. You can put a Don on him to make him blocker. Revive one of your CPs that are of 4 costs or less, making them swing at the rested CP 9 times out of 10, making them not swing at your leader, allowing you to slow down the game. Such a strong card. If they try to fire fist it, you still get a body that they have to waste. So, and then it combos so well with Khalifa, which I'll talk about once I get there. And then if you see too many of them, you can also just use them as a 1K counter in the early games to then get the Kaku active. So definitely a lot of choices when you go first to either play the Kaku or Blue No when it's your 3rd turn. From there, another 5-drop I'm running is Garp. So another problem I have with the Smoker, like I mentioned before, is going first. There was really not a going first lineup with Smoker. You had to kind of force it, and it didn't feel as good. While in the hybrid, you have Bluno, Kaku, and Garp playing on your 3rd turn, allowing you to still play on tempo with Kaku and Garp. As you guys all know, Garp, just play, rest them, and then trash a card in hand to pop a 4 cost or less. Very good against the Zoro matchup. Good against the Whitebeard matchup if you play them on curve to kill their Atmos on curve, or their Frankie if they're playing the Strawbeard. And then they're usually going to go and swing with him with an extra Dawn, just to make sure they get rid of him, because he becomes a threat when he stays on board. And when they swing with him at 8K just to kill him, it still slows down the game on your turn, even if he dies. Such a good card to slow it down, get you to the higher Dawn, so you can start playing your bigger boys, like your Sakazukis and even your Ishos. So definitely a 1-of is good, especially so now you have 9 cards that are targeted when you go first. From there, I play 1 Kumadori. So Kumadori is just another CP9. You're going to see here, if you do the count, that once I run Spandam, and Spam Them only has 17 targets, including this Kumadori. So, I mean, I really wanted to play something else other than the Kumadori. I feel like the 4-drop Kobe, Air Door, 10-drop Kuzan, like one of could be viable now that there's a lot of Whitebeards. The 9-drop Shanks you can even mess around with since you are running the 4-drop Kuzans and the E-shows to then have a dark hole in the game, but you can't search it. I feel like there's way better cards than running the Kumadori, just because I don't run the Air Door in this list. And yeah, he's a target for Blue No, but it's just a one of. It was just a 4-drop vanilla, but I just mainly wanted another CP9. I feel like the Lucci will be too greedy, the Rush Rob Lucci, just because I'm already running 4 Sakazukis as my turn 6 play. And if I had Rob Lucci as a turn 6 play without a counter, you can only play one really good 6-drop, and then you really don't have enough down to do much else. So that's the reason I wasn't thinking of the Rob Lucci Rush. So Kumadori was the best option just because it could combo off the Blue No. But mainly is you need to have a lot of you can't remove them from Navy because then your CP9s can start whiffing like the Kakus, Blue Nose, or the Spam Them. So that's the reason I left them in here. But it is a card that I just feel like was not that useful in this list. From there, you have to play 4 Fukuros, another CP9 blocker that's like a Blue No. Nothing much to say other than both turns he cannot be Fire Fisted or Pistol. He's a definitely good turn 3 play. I mean, a turn 2 play when you go first. Usually I just play him and then I just swing at my opponent's little guys, like when they play Zoro with him, so then they have to attack him, so he becomes an attacker and a blocker. And then if he dies, you can always bring him back with Blue No or use him for the Kaku's effect. Very strong card, must be a 4 of. I think it's going to be a must 4 of like Borsellino for the next few sets. Next for another turn 2 play when you go first is Kobe. Just a one-off. The thing with Kobe, he is a strong card, but he's doing what Kaku is doing, except a turn earlier. And that's the reason I wanted to keep him as a one-off, because then you have the Fukuro to play in turn 2 when you go first, but then you also have a Kobe just in case you don't see the Fukuro. So 5 cards so far that you can use on your turn 2 play if you go first. If I don't go first and I'm going second, I usually don't use them. But it's just an option just in case you need to put CP9s in your trash early so then the Kaku can hit on curve. Also control your opponents and slows them down when you play them on curve. Good against the blue matchup. I just feel like having too many discard, like with the Sakazuki's, Garp, and then Kobe, it will counteract with what you want to do with Lucci in the end game. I remember I lost one game because I couldn't do Kobe and Lucci because I only had 3 cards in hand, so you only had an option to do 1. So unfortunately that does come about, so you got to be careful with him. But I think just having one of, just to have that option to pop something in the early game is useful, and it's a very strong turn to play when you go first. You could bump him up to 2, but I feel like having Garp and Kobe as a one-of is useful in the adaptation just because you already have 4 Kakus that do what he does, but later other than earlier. Another side note, just he is a 3 trash 1. So if you do have a lot of cards in hand, which does come about sometimes if you're depending on the matchups, you can put 7 Dawn on him swing if they don't wanna. They usually take it without blocking, just because they want to counter out so you don't restand. Then you have an option to play Kobe for 3 instead of the classic 5-drop Kaku or 5-drop Garp, allowing you to only put 5 downs on him, so then you can pop something and restand. So it does give you something cheaper to play in the late game if your opponent tries to make you not restand with for your Lucci Leaders effect. So I'm gonna go into the 2Ks right here. Nothing too exciting with the 2Ks other than I'm gonna talk about Khalifa and Tashigi. So the first 2K let's talk about is Khalifa. So nothing special other than you use her as a 2K 9 times out of 10. You really don't want to play her. On play, she lets you draw 2 and discard 2 is a mill option. She's the only mill option we have in black until Sabo for next set. And then you can minus 2 costs on your one of your opponent's characters. Well, like I said, you usually don't want to play her. You want to use her as a 2K so that you can have your CP9 trash ready to go. That's what I usually do with her. But then she gives you an option with the Blue No that when Blue No dies, I will sometimes pick her, put her on play, and then I get her effect for two reasons. One, I get to use her as a 2K counter and then use her effect from trash without really playing her, having a 4K body ready to go if they don't kill her. But then I get the main thing, which is drawing two, discarding two, able to unbrick my hand if I need to see like an E show, if I'm trying to see shockwave, I'm trying to see something for next turn to have a better play next turn. And that's why I think the hybrid package is also very important, because then you're able to try to fix black's biggest weakness, which is, like I mentioned before, not seeing or not able to see a lot of cards, and you only play with what you see. So this way, Blue No Khalifa combo lets you hopefully unbreak your hand and see more cards that you need to see for the matchups. So I think that's a must-have and is very important in the old PO3 black deck. Of course, next set, like I said, we'll get Sabo, which is the same thing, but a little bit better. Not 2K, but a blocker with a good effect and lets you see more cards. So until then, I think 4 of Khalifa with the Blue No is a must. Another cheeky thing you can do is two things. Doesn't come about like at all, maybe 1% of your games. But then also when you get Blue No dies on your opponent's turn, Greg Khalifa on your opponent's turn, draw two, discard two. But yeah, you always think about the -2. Remember that you're running, if you run Shockwave in your deck list, there's a chance that you can hit Shockwave on your trigger. And remember, Shockwave is killing a 4 or less, active or not active, on trigger. So if you're able to do the Khalifa because you wanna do it to unbreak your hand, still pick a 6 cost or a 5 cost to -2 just in case you hit a trigger, because then you're able to actually pop that character, which is gonna help you on your turn maybe, right? If you also have 2 Dawn open, remember Shockwave kills a 3 cost or less active. If that's the case, remember to pick a 5 drop that they're gonna leave active, because then it's a 3. So then when you Shockwave, you're able to kill that 5 drop. So just remember to do those stuff like that, because it could change the game. Obviously, we don't know what you're gonna have on trigger. Your opponent should not leave. If you pick that 5 drop to minus it to a 3, your opponent should catch it, especially if you have 2 Dawn open. They might stop the attack or something, but it could change the state of the game. So just remember that little cheeky combo you can do when you activate Blue Note to bring out Khalifa on your opponent's turn. The next 2K I run is 4 Tashigis. Tashigi is very important in Luci because you cannot minus cost with Luci like you do with Smoker, and you just need that extra oomph to actually use your Kaku effectively, especially in the blue, because everything's a 4 drop. If you had Smoker, you would have just been popping all those characters. If when you play against Law and everything's basically a 5 drop, your Garp is missing it by 1. If you're playing against the black meta, the Sakazuki's a 6, so you cannot Sakazuki them back because you're just missing by 1 cost. So a lot of tempo plays are you're missing because of 1 cost, and that's where the Smoker has the advantage, because then you can control those cards with your cards. So Tashigi mitigates that. So when I go first, and on turn 2 I don't have a Fukuro or Kobe's not the play because they didn't play anything and they just passed turn, I will play Tashigi out, just one of, on curve, just to have her out. If they want to get rid of her, they'll need to do Otama, Marco. If I'm playing against Zoro, I don't do that with her because there's really no need. I mean, yeah, you can argue that you can -2 cost to the Marco and then play the Kaku, but you're risking it now because their Fire Fist gets too much value. So I usually don't do this for the Zoro matchup, but for the White Beard, Yellow, the Black Mirror, so on and so forth, If I'm going first and I don't really have a other good play to play on my turn two, I usually play Tashigi. It's gonna have you ready to go, to control the matchup in the long term, and that's what you want to really think about with black. So definitely don't just hold her up. I'm not saying play multiple of her, but I think just having one on the field that your opponent's gonna see as a threat is very important, and it's gonna help out a lot. So that means on your going first lineup, you have not only four Fukuros, one Kobe, you also have four Tachigis that you can possibly play on curve, allowing you to have a turn two lineup. And I guess I should say what she does, but everybody should know is active in main when you can rest her to -2 on one of your opponent's character, allowing you to again lower costs. And then if she doesn't die, she restands on your next turn, and you're able to repeat the process. So that's why I really like her. This is why I only played two Surus. I didn't have too much room to put the normal 12 2Ks, just because of having the hybrid. I need to have enough Navy, the standard Navy, which is, three Ishos, four Sakazukis, four Kuzans, and four Bortolinos. You still need to have the hybrid package for four Kakus, four Blue Notes, four Khalifas. So you really don't have too much room for the Surus. Like, you can argue that this is where people will probably put more Surus than the Shigis, or have three Surus and three Tashigis. But like I said, Tashigi is a must play when you go first. While Suru, I really don't use her unless I really have to. I usually just use her as a 2K, so that's why I just dropped her to 2. Next is the Searchers. I have three brand news. Mainly because when I go second, yeah, I really want to see him when I go second, so you can argue to put him to 4. But you have so much place going second. You can either play the brand new, which is a 3. You can play your Spandams, and then you can also have your Shockwave active ready to go. So allow me have multiple cards when I go second, and I get to draw a card. So I'm really not missing out on going second. So that's why I think 3 is enough. It also will prevent the brand new whiff, because remember, brand new can't search itself. You have 26 targets, but you have 19 whiffable targets. Well, I'm sorry, not 19. 21, 23 whiffable targets. So putting him at 4 will make you have 24 whiffable targets, instead of the 23. So that's another reason it helps by 1, but then again, you're dropping him to 3, so the chance of you seeing him is lower than bumping up to 4. So you could bump him up to 4. Just know that you're increasing the whiffable chance, but then you're able to see him. I'll not tell you what card I took away for just putting him down to 3. Next is Spandam. As mentioned before, you have 17 targets. Like I said, you could take out the Garp, the Kobe, and one Kuzan, and then put 3 more CPs, allowing you to have 23 targets with brand new and 20 targets with Spandam, allowing you to have less whiffable chance with the Spandam. But I just feel like the Navy package is stronger in this meta, especially against Whitebeard. And the Spandam is mainly the CP9 package is mainly for the Zoro to stay on tempo. Even if I whiff with the Spandam, it's just having a body out is more important. And remember, he is leader lock, so you cannot use Smoker. You have to use Rob Lucci. But yeah, out of the, let's see, 20 times I used him, I whiff with him like maybe, give me one, like 3 times I think I whiffed with him out of the 20 times I used them. So it's still not bad, even though it's just 17 targets. But like I said, the main thing you want with him is just to play him when you go first. So you actually have a going first lineup, and that's the main thing I wanted with black. So you have Spandam into either Tashigi, Kobe, Fukuro, into Kaku, Bluno, and Garp. And then from there, you should be able to get to your late game pretty healthy. While with the Smoker, you really didn't have a going first lineup, and that even though it's just one card, it does set you behind or it does not feel good. Compared to Lucci, the way I built it here, you actually don't mind going first. Of course, you still prefer to go second, but going first actually does not feel bad. And I went first like at least half of my matches, and I did very well. But yeah, so unfortunately, it's only four targets when you go first. But I try to mulligan when I go first to try to see the spam them, since that's the only play you have. And then of course the last card will be three shockwaves. Shockwaves very good in this meta, helps you against the mainly against the Zoro matchup and the Law matchup, just slowing them down, popping cards. Are you able to use triggers, keeping your defensives high when they swing with 8K, because it gives you a 4K power when you defend. But this is the card I took out from the fourth brand new. You could technically just run two shockwaves and then run a fourth brand new, but I just feel like shockwave is more important. I used to always run them at four. I think three is still perfectly fine. I think going down to two is just a feels bad, just because there's a chance you're not gonna see them, and there's gonna be multiple times where you're like, man, I wish I had shockwave to slow down the game. Because even if you don't pop anything, your opponent still thinks of shockwave, so then they make their plays to go around shockwave, which is not as efficient when they don't have to worry about shockwave. So that's why I went ahead and took the fourth brand new down to three and increased the shockwave to three. So that is the deck list, guys. Like I said, 8-2 Rob Lucci Deck List. Did very well. Please try it out. Like I said, the cards I was thinking taking out will be the Fort Kuzan going to three, and then even the Kumadori if you want to try a different CP9. Other than that, I think the deck ran great like how it is. This is the hybrid Lucci build. Please try it out before we go to OPO4. So other than that, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the regionals and the matchups. I went and played against 5 Whitebeards, beat them all. I think Lucci is a very strong contender to Whitebeard, and I think it's Whitebeard's worst matchup when you play it either the hybrid or the pure navy. I still don't know how the pure CP9 Lucci does against Whitebeard. I can't really comment on that. But either the hybrid with more navy or straight up just pure navy Lucci, it is the deck to use against Whitebeard. Just mainly because you have the E-shows and the double attack is what's going to help you in that matchup. And then you want to control with Sakazuki, your 4-drop Kuzans, and even your E-shows. Then you use blockers and your shockwaves to slow down the game so you can get to that late game. So other than one Whitebeard match, which was very, very close, the other 4 was pretty decisive. I played against one Zoro, but I went second, so I can't really comment on the going first lineup for the Zoro matchup I did specifically. But going second with this hybrid build against the Zoro, it wasn't that bad of a matchup at all. I played against one Dofi. With Dofi, you basically still want to see the E-show. If you have E-show on board, you basically, it's like having the 8-drop kid on board in a sense, where they really can't do much after that. Just because they don't have Red Rock yet. So just look for your E-shows, play them, control the board, and basically the match is pretty free. And then the 2 last match, well, not last matches, because I played one early and then one pretty late, is against I went against Kinemon. Kinemon is one of your worst matchups, just because they have Odin and you don't have the 10-drop Kuzans anymore. So with the Odin, if you can't pop it once they play it, it just becomes a little overwhelming. Since it doesn't matter if you have really blockers. So it was a very close match. Just because again, when you build the deck to go specifically against a specific decks, it does make you weaker on the other matchups. But again, there's not a lot of Kinemon or a lot of green in the meta. There is a few. I understand that it is a counter for red. So there is going to be a few out there, but it's not something that you're going to play a lot, and there's a high chance you're going to dodge them. Unfortunately, I did not dodge the Kinemon player. We played it out. I made one blunder towards the end game, which is why I said that I only had 3 cards in hand, so I couldn't do the Kobe and double attack, which I needed to win. because instead of taking the last life so I can have 4 cards in hand, I blocked, so then I only had 3 cards in hand after I draw, and that's where my mistake was. Not saying that that was a guarantee win because it was such a close match that if the last life was a Pump Gibson, which it wasn't, and if he had just one Rester in hand, I would have lost without having that chance to double attack. But that was my only win condition, and I did not take the last life so I can at least go for the win on my next turn. So I didn't make a mistake there. That is my fault. That's the reason I went 8-2. But it is still a hard matchup. It was a very good game. That Kinemon player that played very well. The next match that I lost was the Supernova Kid. With Supernova Kid, Black usually does well does pretty good, especially since you can control their board, since they usually play 1 card at a time and then they just double attack you. But if you don't see any of your destruction cards, no Kakus, no Kuzan, so you can lower the cost, so you can Kaku your Sakazukis or your Garps or even your Kobe, then you just get overwhelmed by their field because now you can't pop 1 things at a time when they play on their turn. So I had no removal, and by the time I did have removal, it was too late. His field was already too strong, and he just beat me down. I think that was my worst match that day. There was like really nothing I can do with the cards you draw, but that is the name of the game sometimes. So those were my 2 losses. The other 7 decks I played, like I named, were all wins. And there's really nothing else that I can say from there. The deck that I really wanted to dodge was yellow because, again, go with the same concept with the Kinemon is the deck has been modified to play against more Whitebeard and Zoro. So the yellow matchup becomes harder just because you don't have the 10-drop Kuzans anymore to try to beat when they play their 10-drop Big Moms. Because if you have your 10-drop Kuzans, by the time they play their 10-drop Big Moms, you basically are able to pop their cards and then just control the field, especially with your blockers, with your Borsalinos. And then you have Blue Nose also, which helps you because they're only going to be swinging with 5k when they play a 10-drop. So you are weaker against the yellow matchup, but you are stronger against the Yamato yellow just because you don't need the 10-drop to pop their 8-drops and 7-drops that they have as their big leaders since they don't play the 10-drop. So just because I thought Yamato was going to be the more of the yellow players playing because it's good against Whitebeard and better against Law compared to Katakuri. Another reason why I went with Lucci, because in my worst match, one of my worst matchups being Katakuri, there was going to be less play of him since more people were going to play Yamato, I thought. But obviously there was still some Katakuri and Big Mom players. I was just lucky enough to dodge them. But yeah, I think that's all I got, guys. Oh, for OPO4, definitely excited for it. It's coming out soon, guys. Comment below what deck you're excited for. I definitely want to see what people want to play next set. Definitely, I think I'm gonna actually stick with pure black. I think the meta next set, if I could be wrong, it's gonna be slower. So I think Smoker and Lucci are gonna shine in that meta, especially since I think a lot of people are gonna start playing blue, either blue Nami or blue Croc or Rebecca. I think pure black has an advantage for those decks. I could be wrong, but that's my theory. If my pure black theory is wrong, then I might just try out the Rebecca just because it stays with the black color and I'm very interested on how it goes. But I think I'm going to try pure black first before I move to a different color. So we'll see, guys. Other than that, guys, comment below for anything else, anything you want me to improve on, anything you want me to talk about. I will, like I said, keep trying to post as much videos as I can. I do have 2 gameplay videos of the offline regionals, so I'll try to post them once I edit them. And thank you guys for watching. Dave RTC is going to be signing out.